Hey Tony, it's Thursday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, ha, both of you two assumed the election would be over. We're living in a constant election cycle. It's Groundhog Day, but with the election. So no, I don't have any full thoughts on it yet because nothing's been finalized. I'll have a lot more thoughts on it probably next week when I'm assuming, get the polls decided. Because I have a lot of thoughts on this election season and on the way it ended up, but that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about today is something that is near and dear to my heart, something that you know that I'm really fond of. So we've been doing this channel for several years now, Tony, and I don't think I've ever had a video on Guy Fawkes Day. And you know how much I love myself some V for Vendetta, as you can see behind me. So for a little context on what Guy Fawkes Day is, it's the anniversary every year of the day the gunpowder treason fell apart. Now, the gunpowder treason was an event that took place in Britain in 1605 during the reign of King James I. Well, King James VI of Scotland, the first of England. It's weird. British heraldry is weird. But it took place in what the world now knows as King James I, and it was actually his first year. His first year as king was a group of Catholic terrorists ended up coming up with a plot. They wanted to blow up Parliament. While most of the people of Parliament were there, including the king, because this was like not his coronation, but it was like a big first day for the king to be there, and then make a Catholic religious state in England. Now, this took place during a time in which there was a lot of religious violence between Protestants and Catholics, and England was actually one of the places where you saw a lot of that in, because England was initially Catholic until King Henry VIII decided, wait, my wife is not giving me children, therefore I must divorce her. The Pope said no, so King Henry VIII was like, screw you then, Pope. I'm making my own religion where I can divorce my wife at will. So King Henry VIII made his own religion and divorced his wife at will.
That's exactly how it went down, too.
Exactly how it went down. He said those exact same words.
Yeah.
But no. So Guy Fawkes Day celebrates the collapse of the gunpowder treason every year. Now, what I love about Guy Fawkes Day is V for Vendetta. Now, V for Vendetta is a graphic novel that was made in the 80s that became a movie that released in 2005. Now, the graphic novel and movie share a lot of differences. Like, they are inherently the same story with many changes. And the general story is an anarchist named V tries to tear down the neo-fascist regime of Britain and also get revenge on people who tortured him along the way. Now, that on its face seems like a somewhat generic story, but it's not because of one person and one person alone. Alan Moore, the writer who is one of the finest writers of graphic novels in history, truly a visionary. He was the one who did V for Vendetta, Watchmen, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, From Hell. Like, if there's a classic graphic novel, there's a good chance Alan Moore had his fingers in it. But the 5th of November every year is what I like to celebrate for V for Vendetta, because I love the movie and I love the graphic novel. With the phrase that I post every single year, remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. And you hear that all the time from V, and it's a classic children's rhyme that Alan Moore kind of turned on its head. Now, V for Vendetta itself has aged differently for the graphic novel and the movie, but it's aged really well in different regards. And I think taken together as an art, it describes much of our world today in quite good detail. So the graphic novel was made during the 80s, during the era of Thatcherism in Britain. And what Alan Moore particularly tried to do is he wanted to tell a story of anarchism and fascism, which are just inherently two complete opposite political spectrums. Fascism is pure order, whereas anarchism is pure disorder. Now, this is a very general term. Like, I'm not going really deep into the differences between fascism, anarchism, and and all that stuff there. But at its very core, anarchism is, as V says it, the land of do what you want, whereas fascism is the land of do what you're told. And that debate rages throughout the entirety of the graphic novel. And, I mean, of course, the fascists are the bad guys. It's just the way it goes. But V himself is not a good guy. He's not a hero. He's very much an anti-hero. He's very much a terrorist. And really has an interesting take on the world. Now, the movie, which came out in 2005, tells a very different story. The story that is the big divide between neoliberalism and neoconservatism, which in the mid-2000s was a real big debate. Now in the year 2020, it's still a big debate, but it's a lot more complex. And I'm going to simplify it grossly here. In the year 2020, a lot of what we're seeing now is fascism versus liberalism. And that's why I think that, like, taken together, the two works really tell a good story and a good reference to where we're at in the world today. And it's something that I would like to go in a lot deeper in on a video, but I'd have to reread the graphic novel and rewatch the movie because I haven't done that in a couple of years to really do a deep dive. But it's something that I like to think about because we are in a very politically fraught moment right now. I mean, granted, I'm 28, and in my lifetime, I've gone through several financial crises, a global pandemic, the rise of white nationalism, and other things like that. And it's a fraught moment, like particularly 2020. Like, looking at the election again, next week I'm probably going to really do a deep dive in on the election when it's hopefully decided, and I'll have a lot more thoughts on it. But it's something to think about. I'm also going to leave you with one other thought. So one of these classic lines is, behind this mask lies an idea, and ideas are bulletproof, which I think is a really fascinating line and really thought-provoking, because it's true. You can't kill an idea. You can kill the person who has the idea. You can make that person disappear, but the idea itself remains. And it's something I like to think about, because humans at our very core are creatures of ideas. And the thought that our ideas last far after our death is a pretty compelling thought. So, Tony, my question for you is, do you think ideas are bulletproof? Tony, I'll see you on Monday. Later, bro.